The emergency transmission came through at 0400 hours, waking Ambassador Ji-won from her sleep. She sat up in her quarters aboard the diplomatic station orbiting Earth, rubbing her eyes as the message played on her console. The voice belonged to Counselor Velrin, leader of the Galactic Coalition, and he sounded desperate. To the people of Earth, the message began. We know our last communication 50 years ago was not what you hoped for. We rejected your application to join our coalition. We said you were too primitive, too violent for our peaceful alliance. Today we come to you not as judges but as beggars. Ji-won leaned closer to the screen. In all her years as Earth's ambassador to the stars, she had never heard such fear in an alien's voice. A threat has emerged from the dark space beyond our borders. Velrin continued. They are called the Vrexen Swarm. They are a hive mind that consumes everything. Planets, ships, entire civilizations. They do not negotiate. They do not stop. In 6 months, they have destroyed 60% of our combined fleets. The Telmorian Defense Force is gone. The Carthex Empire has fallen back to their core worlds. We are losing this war. Ji-won stood and walked to her window, looking down at Earth below. The blue planet glowed peacefully in the darkness of space, unaware of the message that was about to change everything. We do not ask you to fight, Velrin said. We understand you are not a military power. We assume you have spent these 50 years building a peaceful society. But we need help. Medical supplies. Evacuation ships. Food and shelter for refugees. Anything you can spare, please. Billions of lives depend on your answer. The message ended. Ji-won stood in silence for a long moment, then she started to laugh. Not from cruelty, but from the irony of it all. The coalition thought Earth had been building peace. They had no idea what humanity had really been doing for the past 50 years. She opened a channel to Admiral Dae-jung, commander of Earth's defense fleet. His grizzled face appeared on screen moments later. He was already awake, already dressed in his uniform. He had seen the message too. They think we're soft, Dae-jung said, his voice rough with amusement. They think we spent 50 years becoming farmers and poets. What do we tell them? Ji-won asked. The truth, Dae-jung replied. Eventually. But first we show them. Within hours, the Earth Defense Council convened. President Minho sat at the head of the table, surrounded by military commanders, scientists, and diplomats. General Sung-min, who commanded Earth's planetary defenses, spoke first. The coalition rejected us because they said we were too warlike, he said. They looked at our history and saw nothing but violence. They were right to be afraid, but they made one mistake. They thought rejection would make us weak. Instead, it made us prepare. Dr. Hei-rin, Earth's chief xenobiologist, brought up holographic displays showing the Vrexen swarm. The images were terrifying. Massive organic ships that looked more like insects than spacecraft. Thousands of them moving through space like a plague. The Vrexen are efficient killers, she explained. They've adapted to fight against the Coalition's tactics. The Coalition species fight with honor. They have rules of engagement. They announce their presence before attacking. They give warnings. The Vrexen have learned to exploit all of this. What about our tactics? President Minho asked. Dr. Hei-rin smiled. We don't fight with honor, sir. We fight to survive. That gives us an advantage. Commander Yuna, leader of Earth's fighter squadron, stood next. She was young but had logged more combat simulation hours than any pilot in history. The Coalition has 300 ships left across all their species. They're asking for medical frigates and evacuation transports. Should we send them? No, Admiral Dae-jung said firmly. We send everything. The room fell silent. Captain Hyun-woo, the tactical genius who commanded Earth's newest battlecruiser, spoke up. Everything, sir? The entire world fleet? Every single ship, Dae-jung confirmed. 4,000 warships. Every carrier, every destroyer, every battlecruiser we've built in the last 50 years. We show the galaxy what Earth has become. Engineer Kwan Ho, the man who had designed many of humanity's weapon systems, pulled up schematics on the holographic display. Sleek warships bristling with railguns, stealth destroyers that could vanish from sensors, fighter craft faster than anything the Coalition had ever seen, weapons that could strike from ranges the galaxy thought impossible. When the Coalition rejected us, Kwan Ho said quietly, we made a choice. We decided that we would never be helpless again. We would never beg for acceptance. If the galaxy didn't want us, we would make ourselves so strong that they would need us. President Minho looked around the table at each face. These were the people who had dedicated their lives to preparing for a threat that might never come. Now that threat was here, but it wasn't aimed at Earth. It was destroying the very people who had rejected them. Some will say we should let them fall, the president said. They rejected us. They called us savages. Why should we save them? Because that's what separates us from the swarm, G1 answered. The swarm destroys because that's all it knows. We have a choice. We can choose to be better. And because, Admiral Daejung added with a grim smile, when we save them, they'll finally understand what they rejected 50 years ago. They'll see that the violence they feared is the only thing that can save them now. The vote was unanimous. Earth would deploy its entire military force, not to conquer, not to prove a point, but to save a galaxy that had turned its back on humanity. As the council members filed out to begin preparations, Captain Hyunwoo approached Admiral Daejung. Sir, do you think they'll accept our help? When they see what we've built, they might be more afraid of us than the swarm. Daejung placed a hand on the younger man's shoulder. Let them be afraid. Fear breeds respect. And respect is something we've never had from them. That's about to change. Across Earth and its colonies, the world fleet began to mobilize. Ships that had been in standby mode powered up their reactors. Crews that had trained endlessly for a war that never came finally received their orders. Weapons that had never been fired in actual combat were loaded and prepared. In her quarters, Ji-won composed a response to Counselor Velrin's message. She kept it brief. We received your request for aid. The Earth Defense Fleet is on its way. Prepare coordinates for our arrival. She didn't mention how many ships were coming. She didn't explain what Earth had built. The Coalition would see soon enough. As the first wave of human warships entered faster than light travel, beginning their journey to the besieged Coalition worlds, one thought echoed through the minds of everyone aboard. The galaxy had expected Earth to send doctors and relief supplies. Instead, they were about to receive something far more valuable. They were about to receive humanity's true gift to the universe, the promise that no enemy, no matter how vast or terrible, would ever stand unopposed again. The age of Earth's isolation was over. The age of humanity's war was about to begin. Ambassador Ji-won's small diplomatic ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the planet Sanctum Prime, the capital world of the Galactic Coalition. What she saw made her heart sink. The once beautiful planet was surrounded by debris. Broken ships drifted in orbit, some still burning. Defense stations hung dark and lifeless in space. A Coalition escort vessel approached, battered and scarred from battle. The pilot's voice came through weak and tired. Earth vessel, we will guide you to the council chambers. Thank you for coming. Every ship helps. Ji-won said nothing as they descended toward the planet. She could see the scars of war on the surface below. Cities damaged by orbital bombardment. Refugee camps stretching for miles. This proud civilization that had rejected Earth was on its knees. The council chamber was half empty when she arrived. Once, representatives from 50 species had sat in these seats. Now Ji-won counted only 15. Counselor Velrin, the tall, gray-skinned Telmorian who had delivered the rejection message 50 years ago, stood to greet her. He looked decades older than his years, his face lined with exhaustion and grief. Ambassador Ji-won, he said, bowing slightly. We are grateful beyond words that Earth has answered our call. We have prepared coordinates for refugee evacuation zones. How many medical ships did you bring? 20, 30? We didn't bring medical ships, Ji-won said simply. Confusion crossed Velrin's face. Then transport vessels? We need to evacuate civilians from 36 worlds before the swarm reaches them. We didn't bring transports either. The confusion turned to disappointment, then anger. A Carthax counselor, a warrior species with 4 arms and scaled skin, slammed his fists on the table. Then why are you here? What good is one diplomatic ship? We need help, not empty promises. Ji-won remained calm. She had practiced this moment in her mind during the entire journey. Counselor Velrin, 50 years ago you told us that humanity was too violent to join your coalition. You said we were warmongers, that our history was stained with blood. You were right about all of that. Velrin's expression softened slightly. Ambassador, I regret those words. We were harsh, but surely you understand why we had concerns. Your species had only just reached your moon. You were fighting wars among yourselves. You thought rejection would make us change, Ji-won interrupted. You thought we would spend 50 years becoming peaceful, building art and culture, learning to live without conflict. She paused. You were wrong. Before Velrin could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the council chamber. A technician called out from a sensor station. Multiple contacts entering the system. Vrexen swarm signatures detected. They're early. We have maybe 6 hours before they reach Sanctum Prime. Panic erupted in the chamber. Counselors began shouting orders calling for evacuation, demanding their fleets prepare for a last stand. Through the chaos, Velrin turned back to G1 with desperate eyes. "Please," he said. "If you have anything, any ships at all, we need them now." G1 touched her communication device. "Admiral Daejung, we have a situation. The swarm has arrived." The Admiral's voice came through clear and strong. "Understood. World fleet drop from FTL. All ships combat formation." The sensor technician gasped. "Counselor, new contacts. Hundreds of them. No, thousands. They're appearing all around the system. The swarm is surrounding us." The Carthex counselor roared, reaching for his weapons. "No," the technician said, his voice filled with disbelief. "These aren't Vrexen signatures. They're human ships. Counselor, I'm counting over 4,000 vessels." The council chamber fell absolutely silent. Every eye turned to the main display as it lit up with contact markers. Human warships filled the screen, so many that they looked like stars appearing in the darkness. Admiral Daejung's face appeared on the communications screen. He was standing on the bridge of his flagship, and behind him G1 could see crew members moving with practiced efficiency. The Admiral's expression was all business. "Galactic Coalition, this is Admiral Daejung of the Earthworld Fleet. We have 4,000 warships ready for immediate combat operations, requesting battle space coordinates and enemy composition data." Counselor Velrin stared at the screen as if he couldn't believe what he was seeing. 4,000? That's impossible. You were barely spacefaring 50 years ago. You had chemical rockets. Primitive computers, how? Engineer Quan Ho's face appeared in a smaller window next to the Admiral. "You rejected us for being too warlike, Counselor. So we did what humans do best. We prepared for war. Every year for 50 years we built. We designed, we tested. Not because we wanted to conquer anyone, because we knew that a galaxy which would reject us might one day need us." Captain Hyunwoo's voice came through from another ship. Battlecruiser Indomitable reporting. Weapon systems charged. "Ready to engage on your order, Admiral." Commander Yuna's excited voice followed. "Fighter wings 1 through 40 deployed and ready. We have eyes on the swarm formation." The Carthex counselor found his voice. "You trained fighter pilots?" "The Coalition has been training pilots for centuries. Our academies take decades to produce a single qualified pilot." "We used simulators," Yuna replied. "Every pilot in my wings has logged over 10,000 combat hours. We've fought every scenario imaginable. We just haven't fought for real yet." Dr. Hayren appeared on another screen, speaking rapidly. "Admiral, I'm analyzing the swarm biosignatures from long-range sensors. Their organic armor is impressive, but it has weaknesses. Sending tactical data to all ships now." General Sungmin's gruff voice came through. "Earth Planetary Defense Forces standing by. If any of those bugs get past the fleet, we'll handle them." Velrin slowly sat down, his legs seemingly unable to support him. "You didn't just build ships. You built an entire military infrastructure, training programs, command structures, weapons research. For 50 years, you prepared for a war that might never come." "No," Admiral Daejung corrected him. "We prepared for a war that we hoped would never come. But we're humans, Counselor. Hope has never been enough for us. We plan for the worst and pray for the best." The sensor technician called out again. "The Vrexen swarm is adjusting course. They've detected the human fleet. They're analyzing the situation." "Good," Daejung said. "Let them think about it. Let them realize they're not hunting anymore. Now they're the ones being hunted." Jiwan watched the council members' faces as the reality sank in. The species that had rejected humanity for being too dangerous were now surrounded by the most powerful fleet the galaxy had ever seen. A fleet that had appeared not to conquer, not to gloat, but to save them. Velrin stood again, his composure returning. "Admiral Daejung, the Coalition owes you an apology and an explanation for our decision 50 years ago." "Save it for after the battle," Daejung replied, not unkindly. "Right now we have work to do. The Vrexen swarm has 800 ships entering this system. They think you're beaten. They think you're easy prey. They don't know about us yet. Let's educate them." Captain Hyunwoo's voice was steady and confident. "All battle cruisers moving to wall formation. Railgun batteries charged and ready. Target solutions locked on all Vrexen vessels. Fighter wings breaking into attack groups, Commander Yuna reported. We're ready to launch on your command. Admiral Dae-jung looked directly at the camera, his eyes hard as steel. To all human forces, this is not a simulation. This is not a drill. The enemy approaching this system has destroyed billions of lives. They have no mercy. They have no honor. They are here to consume and destroy. We are here to stop them. We are here to show the galaxy what Earth really is. Not just warriors. Not just killers. We are guardians. And today we guard those who once turned us away. All ships weapons free. Engage at will. The human fleet surged forward and the Battle of Sanctum Prime began. The Vrexen swarm moved through space like a living nightmare. 800 bioships, each one a massive creature bred for war, advanced toward Sanctum Prime. Their organic hulls pulsed with sickly bioluminescence, and their weapons were living things that spat acid and launched projectiles of compressed bone. On the Council Chamber's main display, Councillor Velrin and the other coalition leaders watched the human fleet's response. They expected the humans to charge forward like the coalition forces always did. That's how war was fought. Two fleets met in the middle and battled until one side won. The human fleet didn't charge. Instead, 50 battlecruisers led by Captain Hyun Woo's Indomitable formed a perfect wall across space. They stopped at a distance that made the Carthex counselor shake his head in confusion. They're too far away, he said. At that range, weapons are ineffective. They're wasting position. Ambassador Ji-won smiled but said nothing. She had seen the specifications for human weapons. The coalition had no idea what was about to happen. Admiral Dae-jung's voice came through clearly. All battlecruisers fire on designated targets. Show them what railguns can do. The human ships opened fire and the coalition counselors gasped. Bright streaks of light crossed the distance between the two fleets at incredible speed. These weren't energy weapons that lost power over distance. These were solid projectiles accelerated to a fraction of light speed by magnetic rails. The Vrexen bioships had evolved thick organic armor to protect against energy weapons. That armor was useless against solid shot moving at such velocity. The railgun rounds punched through the bioships like paper, tearing massive holes in their hulls. Secondary explosions rippled through the Vrexen formation as internal organs ruptured and biological fluids ignited. Impossible, the Carthex counselor whispered. Kinetic weapons at that range? With that accuracy, how? Computers, Engineer Kwan Ho explained from his ship. We calculate trajectory, velocity, and enemy movement patterns. Our targeting systems can predict where a ship will be seconds before it gets there. The Vrexen are fast, but they're predictable. They follow patterns. Dr. Hayren's voice added to the explanation. The Vrexen evolved to fight against energy weapons. Their armor absorbs heat and disperses energy. But they've never faced solid projectiles at these speeds. Their biology has no defense against it. The Vrexen swarm tried to adapt. The bioships changed formation, spreading out to make targeting harder. They accelerated toward the human fleet, trying to close the distance where their own weapons would be effective. That's when Commander Yuna's fighter wings struck. All squadrons execute attack pattern Delta. Yuna's voice was filled with excitement. Let's show them what speed really means. Thousands of human fighters launched from carrier ships. They were small, fast, and incredibly agile. The coalition had fighter craft, but they were bulky things designed to carry pilots safely through combat. Human fighters were different. They were built for one purpose, to kill. The fighters swarmed around the Vrexen bioships like angry insects. They were too small and too fast for the Vrexen's weapons to track effectively. Lasers and missiles fired from the fighters, targeting weak points that Dr. Hayren's analysis had identified. Sensor clusters, propulsion organs, weapons ports target their communication nodes. Dr. Hayren called out, marking targets on the tactical display. The Vrexen are a hive mind. If we damage their ability to coordinate, they'll become confused. Yuna's fighters adjusted their attacks instantly. Within minutes, dozens of Vrexen bioships were drifting aimlessly, cut off from the hive mind's control. They fired randomly, sometimes hitting their own allies. The Carthex counselor stood from his seat, his forearms gesturing wildly. This is not how war is fought. Where is the honor? Where is the challenge? Honor doesn't win wars, Admiral Dae-jung replied coldly. Victory wins wars. Dead heroes are still dead. The Vrexen swarm tried another tactic. A large group of bioships broke away from the main formation, attempting to flank the human fleet. They moved quickly, using a debris field for cover. Captain Tae Yang had been waiting for this. His stealth destroyers had been invisible to sensors, hiding in the same debris field. As the Vrexen ships passed by, thinking they were executing a clever maneuver, Tae Yang's ships decloaked right behind them. "Surprise," Tae Yang said simply, and his destroyers opened fire at point-blank range. The Vrexen bioships didn't stand a chance. Caught completely off guard, they were destroyed in seconds. The human stealth technology was something the Coalition had never seen. Ships that could completely vanish from sensors, strike without warning, and disappear again. "How are you hiding from sensors?" Velrin asked, his voice filled with wonder and fear. "We've tried to develop stealth technology for centuries. The energy signatures always give ships away." "Heat management," Engineer Quan Ho explained. "We route all excess heat into storage systems. Our ships run cold, and we coat our hulls with materials that absorb sensor sweeps instead of reflecting them. It's not perfect, but it works well enough." The battle raged for 40 minutes. The human fleet moved with precision that seemed impossible. Every ship knew exactly where to be and when. Every weapon fired at optimal range. Every tactic was executed perfectly. The Coalition counselors realized they weren't watching a battle. They were watching an execution. A carefully planned, perfectly practiced demonstration of military superiority. When the last Vrexen bioship exploded, the tactical display showed the results clearly. 800 Vrexen ships destroyed. Human casualties 0. Not a single human ship had been damaged enough to take it out of combat. The council chamber was silent. The Coalition leaders looked at the display, then at each other, then at Ambassador Jiwan. None of them knew what to say. Finally, Counselor Velrin found his voice. "How did you learn to fight like this?" "We've been fighting each other for our entire history," Jiwan answered honestly. "We've fought over land, resources, beliefs, and pride. We've developed thousands of different ways to kill each other. When you rejected us, we took all that knowledge and pointed it outward instead of at ourselves. We became united by a single question. What happens if the galaxy never accepts us? What if we're always alone? We decided that if we were alone, we would be strong enough to survive anyway." Admiral Daejung appeared on the screen again. His face was expressionless. "Counselor Velrin, our sensors show another Vrexen formation approaching. This one is much larger. We estimate 12,000 bioships. They're not coming to Sanctum Prime, though. They're heading directly for Earth." The chamber erupted in shocked voices. The Carthax counselor roared in disbelief. 12,000? That's the main swarm fleet.
"They've never committed that many ships to a single battle."
Dr. Hayren's face appeared, and she looked worried for the first time. "The Vrexen swarm is learning. They saw what we did here. They analyzed our tactics, and they've decided that humanity is the primary threat. They're bypassing the Coalition entirely. They're going to attack Earth directly. You must flee," Velrin said urgently. "Ambassador, order your people to evacuate. You've done more than enough. You've given us hope. You've shown us that the swarm can be beaten. Don't throw away your entire species trying to stop them." Admiral Daejung's expression didn't change. "Earth doesn't run, Counselor. The world fleet will return home immediately. We'll be ready when the swarm arrives. You have 4,000 ships against 12,000, another counselor protested. "Even with your superior tactics and weapons, those odds are impossible." "You don't understand," Jiwan said quietly. "The 4,000 ships you see here? That's just our offensive fleet. The ships designed to fight away from home. Earth itself is defended by something entirely different." "What do you mean?" Velrin asked. Jiwan looked at the counselor with an expression that mixed sadness and determination. "You rejected us because you thought we were too violent. Because we turned our entire world into a weapon during our wars with each other. What you didn't realize is that when we unified and looked toward the stars, we didn't stop being violent. We just pointed that violence outward." She paused. "The Vrexen swarm thinks they're about to attack a helpless planet. They're about to discover what happens when you threaten humanity's home." Admiral Daejung's fleet began entering faster than light travel, racing back toward Earth. As the last human ship vanished from Sanctum Prime's sensors, Velrin looked at the empty space where the mighty fleet had been. "What have we done?" he whispered. "We rejected them. We drove them to become this. And now they're going to face an enemy that might destroy them, all to save a galaxy that turned its back on them." Ambassador Jiwan remained behind. her small diplomatic ship dwarfed by the damaged coalition vessels. "You didn't make us into warriors, Counselor. We've always been warriors. You just gave us a reason to prepare for the biggest fight of our lives." General Sung Min stood in the command center deep beneath the surface of Mars. Around him, holographic displays showed the entire Sol system. Earth glowed blue and beautiful in the center. The moon Luna orbited peacefully. Mars, where he stood, looked red and quiet. Jupiter and Saturn hung in the distance, massive and indifferent. It all looked so peaceful. But Sung Min knew better. He had spent 30 years preparing for this exact moment. "Time until Vrexen arrival?" he asked. 9 days, a technician replied. "The world fleet is still 3 weeks away at maximum speed. They can't reach us in time." Sung Min nodded slowly. He had known this might happen. The Vrexen were faster than expected and the world fleet was too far away. Earth would have to stand alone. President Minho's face appeared on the main screen. He was broadcasting from Earth, addressing the people of the planet. "Citizens of Earth, you have heard the news. An enemy fleet of 12,000 ships is coming to our home. They come to destroy us, to consume us, to erase humanity from existence. The Galactic Coalition has offered to evacuate our planet. They say we should flee and save ourselves. I have declined their offer." Across Earth, billions of people watched their leader speak. There was no panic. Humanity had been preparing for this for 50 years. Every child had grown up knowing that someday the war might come home. "Earth does not run," President Minho continued. "We stand, we fight, and we show the galaxy that humanity's home is not just a planet. It is a fortress. To every person listening, I say this: trust in our defenders. Trust in what we have built, and know that when this is over, the galaxy will remember what happens when you threaten Earth." Director Yoonji, head of Earth Intelligence, stood beside General Sung Min in the command center. She pulled up files that showed 50 years of preparation. "We have 200 ships in the home defense fleet," she said. "Not our best ships, not our newest. Those are with the world fleet. What we have here are older vessels, training ships, and system patrol craft. 200 ships against 12,000. An officer muttered. "We're going to die." "No," Sung Min said firmly. "They're going to die. They just don't know it yet." He touched a control and the holographic display changed. Suddenly, the peaceful solar system came alive with red markers. Thousands of them. Tens of thousands. The officers in the command center stared in shock. One of them gasped. "What? What am I looking at?" "The truth," Yoonji answered. "We didn't spend 50 years just building ships. We militarized the entire solar system. Every planet. Every moon. Every asteroid. Everything." She zoomed the display to the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. What looked like millions of innocent rocks were now marked with weapon symbols. The asteroid belt contains over 1 million automated defense platforms. Each one has railgun batteries. They're powered by solar collectors and can operate for decades without maintenance. They've been waiting here silent and hidden for 50 years. The display shifted to Jupiter. Its many moons glowed with new markers. Europa, Ganymede, Io, and Callisto have been converted into missile bases. They hold enough firepower to destroy 1,000 fleets. Saturn's moon Titan is the same. Even Neptune's moon Triton has defense systems. An officer pointed at Mars. "What about here? What have we built on Mars?" Sung Min smiled grimly. "Mars isn't just the red planet anymore. It's a fortress world. Beneath the surface, we have orbital defense stations, ground-based laser arrays, and missile silos. If the swarm gets past everything else, Mars will be their last obstacle before Earth." "And Luna?" someone asked, pointing at Earth's moon. "Luna is special," Yoonji said softly. "Luna is the biggest weapon platform humanity has ever built. The entire moon is hollow now, filled with weapon systems. It's not a moon anymore. It's a battle station." The display zoomed to Earth itself. The planet was surrounded by a ring of defense satellites, space stations, and orbital platforms. "Earth has its own defenses," Sung Min explained. "But the plan is simple. We don't let the swarm reach Earth. We make them fight for every kilometer of space. We make them bleed from the moment they enter our system until the moment they die." 8 days later, the Vrexen swarm arrived at the edge of the Sol system. 12,000 bioships dropped out of faster-than-light travel, their sensors immediately detecting Earth's location. They also detected the 200 human ships waiting for them. The Vrexen hive mind analyzed the situation. It had lost 800 ships at Sanctum Prime, but it had learned from that battle. These humans were dangerous, but 200 ships could not stop 12,000. The hive mind ordered an advance. The Vrexen fleet moved forward, passing through the outer planets. Neptune watched them pass. So did Uranus. The swarm's sensors detected no threats, just empty space and distant planets. Then they reached Saturn. And everything changed. Titan, Saturn's largest moon, suddenly came alive. Missile silos that had been hidden for decades opened. Thousands of missiles launched simultaneously, crossing the distance to the Vrexen fleet in minutes. The swarm tried to shoot down the missiles, but there were too many. The missiles weren't advanced or smart. They were simple, cheap, and numerous. They exploded among the bioships, destroying dozens and damaging hundreds more. The Vrexen swarm adjusted course, trying to avoid Saturn. They moved toward Jupiter instead. That's when the asteroid belt attacked. 1 million automated railgun platforms opened fire at once. The sky lit up with streaks of light as solid projectiles tore through space. The Vrexen bioships were tough, but not tough enough. The railgun rounds punched through their armor, shredded their organs, and left them drifting as dead hulks. The hive mind realized the truth. This wasn't a solar system. This was a trap. Every planet, every moon, every rock was armed and ready. But retreating was not in the Vrexen nature. They pushed forward, accepting losses, determined to reach Earth. General Sung Min's 200 ships didn't try to stop the swarm directly. Instead, they herded them. They attacked from the sides, forcing the Vrexen to move in specific directions. They led the swarm into carefully prepared kill zones where the automated defenses were thickest. 3,000 Vrexen ships died before they even reached Mars. But 9,000 remained, and they were learning. They adapted their formation to minimize losses. They shot down missiles before they got close. They destroyed the automated platforms they could detect. When the swarm reached Mars, General Sung Min gave the order. All Mars defense systems fire at will. Show them what a fortress world can do. The red planet erupted with weapons fire. Lasers blazed from surface installations. Missiles launched from hidden silos. Orbital stations that looked like scientific outposts revealed their true nature as military platforms. The Battle of Mars lasted 6 days. The Vrexen swarm battered the planet's defenses relentlessly. They destroyed many of the platforms and bases. But Mars held, and the swarm paid dearly for every kilometer they gained. When the swarm finally pushed past Mars, they had lost another 2,000 ships. 7,000 remained. Still enough to overwhelm Earth. Still enough to win. That's when they saw Luna. Earth's moon didn't look threatening. It looked like it always had, gray, cratered, and lifeless. The swarm's sensors detected no unusual activity, just an ordinary moon orbiting an ordinary planet. Now, General Sung Min whispered. Luna opened up. The entire visible surface of the moon split apart like a mechanical flower, revealing the weapons hidden within, railguns the size of buildings, laser arrays that could cut through ships like paper, missile batteries that could launch thousands of warheads per minute. The moon that humanity had first reached with primitive rockets was now the most powerful weapon in the solar system. And it was angry. The Vrexen swarm reeled under the assault. Bioships died by the hundreds, then by the thousands. The hive mind tried to adapt, tried to find a weakness, but there was none. Luna was too big, too powerful, too well defended. Colonel Bo-Ra watched from her transport ship as the battle raged. She commanded the Orbital Strike Marines, elite soldiers trained for boarding operations. General, request permission to deploy. We can board the damaged bioships and destroy them from inside. Permission granted, Sung Min replied. Dr. Hayrin is uploading biological warfare data to your teams. The Vrexen are organic. That's their weakness. Bora's Marines launched in small, fast ships. They approached the damaged bioships and cut their way inside. The Vrexen creatures they found within were terrifying. Massive, insect-like beings with acid blood and razor-sharp claws. But the Marines carried weapons designed specifically to fight biological enemies. Nerve agents, toxins, viruses engineered by Dr. Hayrin to attack Vrexen biology. The battle continued for 6 days. The automated defenses ran low on ammunition. Mars was battered and scarred. Luna had taken damage to some of its weapon systems. General Sung Min's 200 ships were down to 130, the rest destroyed or too damaged to fight. But the Vrexen swarm was broken. Of the 12,000 ships that had entered the Sol system, only 3,000 remained functional. And they were trapped between Luna's weapons and the approaching automated defenses from the outer system. Then the sensors detected new contacts. The world fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel like an avenging angel. 4,000 ships appeared at the edge of the Sol system, their weapons already charged, their crews already at battle stations. They had pushed their engines too hard during the journey. 3 ships had suffered critical failures and had to be abandoned, but the rest had made it. They had come home just in time. Admiral Dae-jung stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the tactical display. The Sol system was a mess. Debris floated everywhere. Mars was scarred and burning. Luna had damage across half its surface, but Earth still stood. The planet glowed blue and beautiful, untouched by the war raging around it. "All ships," Dae-jung said calmly. "The Vrexin swarm came to our home. They came to destroy everything we love. They came to prove that humanity could be beaten. Let's show them what happens when you threaten Earth. All ships, attack formation. No mercy, no prisoners." And this. The world fleet surged forward. The remaining 3,000 Vrexin bioships were caught between Luna's weapons behind them and the approaching human armada ahead. They tried to scatter, tried to break through, but there was nowhere to run. Captain Hyun-woo's battlecruiser Indomitable led the charge. His railguns fired with perfect accuracy, each shot destroying or crippling a bioship. Around him, hundreds of other battlecruisers did the same. The Vrexin had adapted to fight against these weapons at Sanctum Prime. But here, trapped and desperate, their adaptations meant nothing. Commander Yuna's fighters swarmed through the swarm like wolves among sheep. She had lost friends at Sanctum Prime, good pilots who had died in training accidents over the years. She thought of them now as her missiles found their targets. Every Vrexin ship that died was revenge for a fallen comrade, a promise kept. Captain Taeyang's stealth destroyers appeared without warning in the middle of the Vrexin formation. They had used the debris field for cover, sneaking past the swarm's sensors. At point-blank range, they fired everything they had. Dozens of bioships exploded before the Vrexin even knew the destroyers were there. The Vrexin hive mind was experiencing something it had never felt before: fear. This species, these humans, fought with a ruthlessness that the hive mind couldn't understand. They used deception, overwhelming firepower, and tactics that seemed designed to cause maximum destruction with minimum risk. The hive mind tried to find a pattern, tried to predict what the humans would do next, but it couldn't. Humans were chaotic, unpredictable, deadly. In the command center on Mars, General Sungmin watched the battle with satisfaction. His defense fleet, reduced to 130 ships, joined the attack. They were battered and low on ammunition, but they weren't going to miss the final fight. Colonel Bora's Marines were still inside several Vrexin bioships, fighting hand-to-hand with the creatures within. She received the message that the world fleet had arrived, and she knew what it meant. "All teams, fall back to extraction points. Get out of these ships now. The fleet is going to destroy everything." The Marines fought their way back to their transport ships, dragging wounded comrades with them. Some didn't make it. The Vrexin creatures were terrifying up close, and the corridors inside the bioships were tight and dark. But most of the Marines escaped, and as their transports pulled away, the bioships they had been inside exploded under concentrated fire from the fleet. Dr. Hayrin was aboard one of the medical ships, treating wounded Marines and ship crews. She analyzed data from the battle, learning more about Vrexin biology with each passing minute. "They're starting to panic," she reported to Admiral Dae-jung. "The hive mind is losing coherence. Individual bioships are acting on their own, breaking formation." "They're losing." "Good," Dae-jung replied. "End them." The battle became a slaughter. The Vrexin swarm that had destroyed 60% of the Coalition's fleets was being annihilated in humanity's home system. They had expected an easy target. They had found a nightmare. Captain Hyun-woo identified the largest bioship in the swarm formation. It was enormous, 3 times the size of any other. "Admiral, I believe that's the hive mind's command vessel. If we destroy it, the rest will lose all coordination." "Then destroy it," Dae-jung ordered. Hyun-woo's Indomitable, along with 20 other battle cruisers, focused all their fire on the massive bioship. The creature tried to flee, tried to hide behind smaller ships, but there was nowhere to go. Railgun rounds tore through its organic armor. Missiles exploded against its hull. Lasers burned through its flesh. The command bioship died slowly, its death scream echoing across communication channels as a horrible organic wail. And when it finally exploded, the remaining Vrexin ships went mad. Without the hive mind to guide them, They became nothing more than animals. They attacked each other, rammed into debris, or simply drifted aimlessly. The human fleet destroyed them all. It took 3 more hours, but when it was over, not a single Vrexen bioship remained functional. 12,000 ships had entered the Sol system. 12,000 ships were now debris floating in the darkness. Admiral Daejung took a long breath and looked around his bridge. His crew was exhausted. Many were injured, but they were alive and Earth was safe. All ships cease fire, he ordered. Begin search and rescue operations for any survivors. Get damage reports from every vessel. And someone send a message to the Galactic Coalition. Tell them Earth still stands. 3 days later, Counselor Velrun arrived at Earth with what remained of the Coalition's fleet. 300 ships, all that was left of dozens of species militaries. They approached cautiously, not knowing what they would find. What they found was Earth, surrounded by a field of debris so vast it would take decades to clear. They found human ships, battered and scarred, but still operational. They found Mars, damaged but defiant. They found Luna, its weapon systems exposed and still active, and they found humans. Tired, wounded, but unbroken humans. Ambassador. Jiwan met with Counselor Velrun on a neutral station orbiting Earth. The Telmorian looked at her with an expression she had never seen before. Respect mixed with fear. You won, Velrun said simply. Against impossible odds, you won. The Vrexen swarm that destroyed our fleets couldn't destroy you. How? Because you fight for honor, Jiwan answered. You have rules. You announce your presence before attacking. You give warnings. You try to minimize casualties. Those are good things in peacetime. But the Vrexen don't care about any of that. They only understand one thing, survival. And humans understand survival. Better than anyone, Jiwan confirmed. We've been fighting for survival since we lived in caves and feared the dark. We learned that the universe doesn't care about fairness. It doesn't care about honor. It only cares about who is strong enough to survive. So we became strong, not because we wanted to, but because we had to. Velrun was quiet for a long moment. The Coalition wishes to offer Earth full membership. Not as junior members, as equals. We want you to have a permanent seat on the High Council. We accept, Jiwan said, but with conditions. Conditions? Never again tell a species they're too dangerous to stand among the stars, Jiwan said firmly. The violence you feared in humanity is the same violence that saved you. Sometimes the galaxy needs warriors. Sometimes it needs species who know how to fight. Not to conquer, not to dominate, but to protect, Velrun nodded slowly. Agreed, and I must apologize for rejecting you 50 years ago. We were wrong. You weren't wrong about us being violent, Jiwan corrected. You were only wrong about what that violence could be used for. We don't wage war because we love it. We wage war so we can have peace. President Minho gave a speech to both Earth and the Coalition. Today, humanity joins the Galactic Coalition not as beggars or supplicants, but as defenders. We paid the price for membership in blood and sacrifice. 12,000 enemy ships came to our home and 12,000 ships died. We lost 47 ships and 12,000 brave souls who gave their lives defending Earth. We will remember them. We will honor them. And we will ensure their sacrifice was not in vain. Admiral Daejung retired the day after the battle. He had spent his entire life preparing for a war that nobody believed would come. Now that war was over and he was tired. He stood at the memorial wall where the names of the dead were inscribed, running his hand over the letters. Commander Yuna became the youngest admiral in Earth's history. Her first assignment was to train Coalition pilots in human tactics. She was patient with them, but firm. You're used to fighting with honor, she told a class of alien pilots. That's good, but I'm going to teach you how to fight to win. Sometimes winning means being dishonorable. Sometimes it means being cruel. Sometimes it means doing things that make you feel dirty inside. But being alive and feeling guilty is better than being dead and honorable. Captain Hyunwoo took command of the Joint Earth Coalition Defense Fleet. His first order was to establish new defense protocols. The Vrexen were just one threat, he explained to Coalition officers. There will be others. We need to be ready. We need to think like humans, always prepared, always watching, never caught off guard. Dr. Hayron opened the first Interspecies Research Institute.